This episode of the Off-Road Podcast is sponsored by Warn, Colby Valve, and 4 Patriots.
Off-Road Podcast, episode 443, West Virginia State Senator Mark Maynard.
Tonight, Aaron makes a recovery, Coy plays Discovery Channel, and Ben gets working.
This Week in Review was brought...
Wow, wrong button.
I was right.
Welcome to the Off-Road Podcast, the podcast about everything off-road. We cover the news, review products, and interview people in the off-road industry. Your hosts tonight are Aaron, Coy, and my name is Ben. And tonight we are joined by West Virginia State Senator Mark Maynard. And welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
Glad to get you on finally.
It's an honor.
So, Aaron, I got to hear about this recovery.
It wasn't much. So a friend called me Saturday night and his daughter had hit a patch of compact snow or ice or something, spun across 2 lanes of traffic, jumped a little curb in the median, and ended up in a watery grass. I don't want to call it a ditch, but I mean, it's the side of the road. So I guess it's a ditch. I only got one picture of it. Here it is. Little Toyota Corolla, the best off-roader that the Taliban has. They just do great out there in the sandbox. But unfortunately, when you put it in wet grass and the front end is sunk in a little bit of a creek, they won't go anywhere. So it just needed a little bit of a tug. But it was fun to get out there with the Nissan and pull them out.
It must be a distant relative of mine.
It's possible. But I almost didn't make it to go do the recovery. My truck, since we talked last week, has gotten even worse. And this time it finally did throw a check engine light for the MAF. So I've got a new one coming. Supposed to be here Saturday. It is now showing that it's going to get here on Wednesday. So I'm excited. I can get it in sooner and start testing it and stuff. So besides that, I threw a big birthday party for my wife on Saturday morning. She hit the big 4-0 this year, so we had a great fun time for her.
You mean she's 25 still, right?
I was my mom bought the candles and she bought one of those number 4s and a 0. I was gonna just buy a 29 candle because I thought that's what you're supposed to do, but my mom bought the candles, so I didn't get the chance to do that. Eric in the comments says, I guess we have to behave. We have a senator on the show. Yeah. Our show, it doesn't get that rowdy. We like to have a lot of fun. It doesn't get that rowdy. It's definitely family friendly. We try to keep it family friendly. So that's it. I haven't got, well, I should take it back. We had a big ice storm roll through and missed a couple days of work. But it wasn't like something to go out and play in. But my wife's F-150 did really well with the Falcon Wild Peak AT3W. So, I don't even know if Coy went to work at all last week. How about, why don't you tell about your week, Coy?
I worked last Friday.
Friday? You worked one day last week. Amazing.
It was awesome. I pulled a giant piece of equipment in the ditch and got it so stuck. I spent like 6 hours getting it out. And got 0 production done. So I'm sure my boss was glad he brought me in for that one day so that I could just cash a check and get nothing done. I ended up pulling I used a Kenworth semi loaded with water to get enough weight up. Like, I can't believe I broke 3 straps and a chain. It was wildly dangerous. But we got it out of there. And then Saturday, I did search and rescue drill and we did a downed plane exercise. So they have a ELT beacon in those, and we have a practice one that's just a slightly different frequency that you set off so that it doesn't alert all the airports and overhead planes that there's really a plane down.
That's good.
We have the cool big H, wire, look like a Discovery Channel thing where they're, tracking a tiger, and we get a bunch of those and we start, they hide it for us and we start in different parts of the county and start shooting bearings and narrowing it in. And it took us about 6 hours, but we found it.
You mean like the ghost hunter guys, where they're looking for poltergeists and stuff like that in houses? One of those big old antenna
not
things.
Quite the same, but I'm sure when you see some dude in an orange shirt wandering around some street, like there are a lot of interest. The homeowners were probably thinking that.
Yeah.
At one
exactly.
point, I did have that at the side of a graveyard just because that's a spot I could pull over. And I thought, these people across the street just assume I'm an insane person that's ghost hunting. Like, there would be no other, I wouldn't even have a question. But like, oh, this is a crazy person looking for ghosts. But
Okay.
that's all I did. So
They're
when
like,
you
"Where's
got to
your cameras?"
when you got to the plane crash, was anybody eating somebody else? Was there any cannibalism happening?
no,
Oh,
all we have is this,
just
shoebox sized unit
Oh.
that they just stick in the bushes. It'd be a lot easier to find if there's a plane crash. I'm assuming homeowners and stuff would call in the plane in the ditch
Certainly.
in front of their house. But
yeah. That actually happened in the last month in one of our counties, local to us. There's a plane crash that crashed into some houses. So
Mm.
in
Yeah.
Newburgh, I believe it was.
Find it.
So
Wow.
yeah.
all right, Ben, what about you? You get up to anything interesting this week?
I actually decided to start working on my Forerunner. I replaced my window wipes, not the wipers, the wipes on the side that kind of clean the dust off your window before it rolls down, so that your windows don't get all full of gunk and not work. Because towards the end of the summer, my rear window wipe was so degraded that all the dust from our last couple trips out into Christmas Valley and all that, my tracks got all gunked up and it was rolling down really slow. So I had to clean them out and relubricate them. So I was like, I should replace those. So I finally bought them, and I did all 5 windows that roll down. And then I did my window wiper motor this evening. It's actually why the Forerunner's right there. And then I started working on some other stuff.
Nick in our comments asked if West Virginia got some snow too.
Yes, we did. Got quite a bit.
Right
I
on.
got to do a little snow wheeling. In my
So you
99
guys got
Express.
snow. People up north got snow. You guys got snow in the south. I got rain and ice. Like, this is unfair.
Well,
I thought they said that we were going to get worse winters. This is when they mean worse, it's going to suck for me.
So you got to do some snow wheeling?
Yeah, I have a 99 XJ, and I went with some buddies to around Snowshoe, which we did some skiing, and my little XJ was a blast.
Wait
Nice.
a second.
Is
You're
it
a senator
two-door?
and you drive an XJ?
A
Yeah.
disposable hero.
I thought government was supposed to pay really well.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't.
You're supposed to be doing some insider trading or something. Like,
I know. Yeah.
get you a G-Wagon.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness.
I need to put
Is yours-
under a G-Wagon, right?
Is yours a 2-door or 4-door XJ?
4-door. It's 4-door.
Okay. Right on.
It's a mild vehicle that I can use to drive on trips stuff. It's not a serious wheeler, but it's fun to, it can do mild trail stuff. It's not my only rig, but it's dependable. And I found out it's really dependable because zero this weekend, and the old thing started and ran warm and heater worked. And so I really put it to the test.
So
It's
it got
also
4-liter
be
6-cylinder.
It's actually got a 258 stroker crank, 30 over with 4 JE pistons.
nice.
Absolutely.
And
And I
that's
bought
really
it
a
off
sleeper
bought it
rig
off the-
for a senator, isn't it? Like, no one's
I
like,
bought-
oh, that's a senator. Like,
Yeah. I bought it off of a fellow legislator who actually built it. And I was needing a quick ride and bought it off him. And it's red, white, and blue.
Oh wow. I
So
need to
it
see
stands
pictures
out.
of that.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you do anything else exciting this week in the off-roading world?
Well, actually, I had some great meetings today. There were some people in my district, from my Senate district. I represent 4 counties, which is the entire southwestern border of West Virginia. And today was Tourism Day here in the capital. So I got to walk around and kind of promote my Adventure Gravel Day coming up to them, and meet some of my CVB directors. And CVB is something we have here in West Virginia called Convention Visitors Bureau. And I'll go ahead and give them a plug now. There's the director of Gilbert CVB, Ty Harless, and he has puts on an event there called Trail Fest. And he has side-by-side ATV drag racing, and it caters to the ATV side-by-side world. And then also another CVB director in my district, she has an event in her district called Dirt Days. Her name's Ashley Hatfield, and it happens in the town of Williamson. And then another one of my CVB directors has a thing called Mountain Mud, I think's the name of it. And she's from McDowell County. Her name is Jennifer Justice. So I'm blessed to have some pretty cool events. And these aren't for-profit like ventures. These are our actual Convention and Visitors Bureau putting these events on.
That's awesome.
That's
really
great.
cool.
Starting to get jealous.
Yeah. It sounds like you guys might have some good stuff out there.
Oh, yeah, there is.
This Week in Review was brought to you by 4 Patriots. Have you ever been concerned with the shelf life of the food you take camping? Since you're a listener of the podcast, we know you at least keep some emergency food stashed in your rig. 4 Patriots sells a variety of survival food and equipment that pair great with the off-road and adventure lifestyle. 4 Patriots set up a special page for you at 4patriots.com/FRN so that listeners of the Off-Road Podcast can see this week's discounts and deals before they go away.
So we got a voicemail on the spotter hotline, 605 spotter. Though I believe he may have been drunk while listening to the show. So we'll see. Yeah, I'll let you be the judge.
Oh, you guys make me giggle.
That was none other than our friend Rick from up in Washington State. Yeah, that was it.
That's it.
We were harassing him on the podcast last week. We might have called him a geriatric or something. So he called in and yeah, we like Rick. He's a great guy. He's fun to go camping and wheeling with. He's one of our close friends. So yeah, if you guys want to leave us a voicemail, call in 605 spotter, SPOTTER. We also want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Patch. Head over to patriotpatch.co and check out their selection of great patches, shirts, cleaning mats, signs, and stickers. You can also join the Patch of the Month Club for $15 and receive a patch, matching sticker, and artist proof each month. Do you have any patches in your XJ, Mark? Any morale patches?
Florida bug.
Sorry to call you.
I've got patches in my
on the spot right there while you're choking.
It's okay. I've got patches in my Xterra on the headliner, so got quite a few there.
Hold up. Is Xterra owner also?
It's not as good as it sounds, but I did have 31 IROCs on it at one time, and it's stock, but it's a fun rig for when I need it. I promise I have modified rigs too, though.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out about that a little bit later in the main topic. We're almost there. Yeah.
Hey, Aaron, you're not going to drum up your Frontier, let them know how awesome it is.
I have a Nissan Frontier, and it is pretty awesome. I'll pull up a picture here just 1 second.
Well, while Aaron's pulling that up, don't forget to check out our patches. We've got those here. Oh, there's a picture of Aaron's almost awesome before.
Old picture.
That is a little bit old. I actually just shared that one on Facebook today, so I had it quick access on my computer. Yeah.
He VK swapped a V8 into it out of Titan. So
nice.
Yeah. We've got the off-road podcast patch and the Lumen Locker, which does glow in the dark.
You might have just found another constituent.
There's Eric. He's already ready to move from Texas, apparently. Is it too hot for you, Eric?
Have tire troubles ever left you deflated? Colby Valve has got you covered. Ever have a valve stem leak? Colby Valve makes reusable and easily replaceable valve stems that don't require you to remove your tire from the wheel. They work with your off-road rig, ATV, side-by-side, commuter vehicle, or even your tractor. Never be left stranded again because of a busted valve stem. They also have a tire repair kit for those punctures that keep you away from doing your favorite thing, wheeling. Make sure to check out colbyvalve.com or ask for them at your local off-road products store.
All right, guys, should we jump into our first news story? Burn through these real quick.
Yeah.
So our first one is brought to us by Autoblog, and it's just about the 2023 Wrangler versus Bronco sales. We kind of every year we hit this, but 5 years ago, Ford popped out the proof that the new Bronco was in the works, and we didn't really know what was going to go on at the time. But now, nearly 4 years later, after a launch and some mini production issues, but have now more or less you can actually buy one now if you want one instead of having to wait 2 years. It's setting the stage for a showdown between the two obvious competitors. And we can compare these numbers, and here's what they are. Jeep Wrangler sold 156,581 Wranglers in 2023, and the Ford Bronco sold 105,665. So I think that grew about 50,000 from last year's number. So if everything keeps continuing, go ahead, Darren.
I was going to say Ford went up by like 50,000 and Wrangler went down by like 50,000. But overall, the segment with those two in it really did grow by almost 100,000 rigs.
So
I honestly see Bronco being very close to Wrangler next year, and in 2026, possibly, like if trends continue, they may outsell Wranglers. It'd be weird to see the Wrangler unseated from its throne like that, but that's just how it's trending right now.
I was curious, so I pulled it up. The 2023 sales for the Toyota 4Runner were 109,951. And
109,000 for the 4Runner.
Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh. And then
I honestly would assume more on the 4Runner just because there's such they're really a soccer mom mobile at this point. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, here, you want to hear the number for Tacomas?
It's got to be 250 or more.
I was going to say 300.
234,768.
Well, speaking of Broncos, I just finished reading this book, A History of Ford's Legendary 4x4 Ford Bronco. And there was a lot of interesting stuff in there. And I didn't know that there was so much. I knew there's a lot of history, but there's a whole lot involved. Don't have us look up the Frontier sales. They're going to be really, 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 really meager. I bet you they're like 30,000 or something. It's too embarrassing. So don't do it. As Ben types.
Just off the top of the head, Bronco has so much more history than Wrangler. Like, as soon as you hear Bronco and history, I just immediately be like, yeah, that scene of OJ running from the cops from the Bronco at 12 miles an hour. But Wrangler has nothing like that.
That's true. And they've got a lot of awesome racing history.
58,000 for you, Aaron.
Oh, 58. Okay, well, that's twice as much as I would have assumed. All right, well, our next story is also Bronco related. It is from Jalopnik, and it says someone lost $75,000 by purchasing a Ford Bronco Raptor. So a man named Nick thought he found a sweet deal when he saw a Ford Bronco Raptor for sale on Craigslist. It had Alaska plates on it. It was stolen from a Ford plant in Michigan, and it was sold to this Nick guy in Arizona. So before any money changed hands, he wanted to make sure that everything was good. So he paid for a Carfax, took it to a third-party DMV office in Arizona to check the title. He says, I ran the Carfax, and it came back clean. I checked the door VIN to the title, and it matched. I checked the car VIN in the window, and it matched. The final step the next day, we met at the DMV. We go in with the title and it clears. Boom. I have an Arizona title for this Bronco in my name with the exact VIN and everything. So everything looked good. He pays the guy $75,000. But it really was stolen from a Ford plant in Detroit as part of a large theft ring. So kind of wild. I didn't know that people like stole production vehicles from manufacturers. The police were tipped off a few weeks later when the Nick guy attempted to trade the Bronco in at a local dealership for a truck. A salesperson at the dealership found a VIN discrepancy and the police seized the Bronco not long after. Nick is now out $75,000. 7 people were arrested in Michigan in connection with a theft ring in early August, with other victims in Arizona, Tennessee, and New Mexico. And the last thing it says here is, yeah, that's great, Eric. Stole it one piece at a time. Johnny Cash is part of the theft here. It says, with auto thieves getting better and better at bypassing things like vehicle registration system checks and Carfax, this all shows when buying a vehicle in a private sale. You can't solely rely on those technologies to be sure the vehicle is being legitimately sold. The main thing anyone can do is just to be wary of buying a vehicle on somewhere like Craigslist, period, especially for a hot selling and popular model like the Bronco Raptor. I did some research into this also. He paid $75,000 and the going price for these is like $100,000 to $110,000. So that should have been a little bit of a red flag that he was getting a steal on it. And then
Yeah, but like,
another
what else do you do? Like, he's like, wow, this is too good to be true. I got to go to the DMV and flush all this out. And DMV's like, it's all yours. Here's a gives him a title. Like, I want to know how they made this all work, because I had a vehicle that I bought with a lost title, and I almost just cut the car into pieces and took it to a scrapyard because it was so difficult to get the lost title. And I had the guy that I had everybody involved legitimately. So to have a stolen vehicle and get the DMV to issue a title is incredible. I don't know.
So they just found a registration where they used someone else's vehicle is all I can imagine. They just like, oh, well, here's another one that matches everything. We'll print our own VIN tag somehow. That's what I don't know how they did. How did they get the VIN tags in? But one thing that I read online that you can do is if you have an OBD2 scanner, you can read the VIN from the ECU itself, and there shouldn't be a way for them to change that. So if that VIN on the ECU doesn't match things, then but who does that? I've never thought about doing that.
That's a good idea. I didn't even think of that. And I've got a Bluetooth OBD2 reader. And they're not expensive. I'm surprised more people don't have them, because it's like you can get a cheap one for like $10-15 and the app is free.
You think Ford's gonna do anything for this guy? Like,
no,
because he's trying to trade it in.
Yeah.
For, I'm assuming, another Ford truck. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if someone stole a car from you and then you were getting it back, would you do anything to help that person out?
If I had made and sold 100,000 of those that year, I think I could probably slip them. So, maybe one just regular, maybe not my top of the line model, but I feel like I could do something for him. I could be understanding.
A plain white work truck with vinyl floor mats.
I could get him. I could do something for him.
You give him a Ford Maverick.
Good luck on that right now. Those are hard to get too.
Yeah. No, I didn't know. I had no idea that people were stealing from Ford directly. That was wild to me.
Do you remember the news story when they were having all the COVID shortages with the ECU stuff, and they had all those lots where they're storing them, and people were going in and cutting the catalytic converters out of them before?
No.
Oh yeah, people were breaking into these giant storage lots and just wiping out catalytic converters and running with them.
Because they're probably all unattended lots. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's a security guard that went through, but there was 20,000 vehicles in this lot. Like, well,
Yeah.
Yep. All right,
Go
let's.
prepared with Warren Industries. They produced the first recreational winch in 1959 and lead the industry with their dedication to quality and reliability. When you dig yourself in deep, make sure you have the right tools to get yourself out. Get Warren equipped and go where others can't. Now, let's get ready for adventure and head into our main topic.
Well, like I said earlier, we are joined by Mark Maynard, who is a senator for West Virginia. Aaron and I got the pleasure of actually meeting him in person. It was pretty cool. And we had talked about having you on the show before. It took a little bit of work. We finally get to meet you in person, and we got your cell phone number, so it's hard to ignore us. We can call you. We cut out the middleman there. So, cool. You want to start this off with the Fast Five Facts?
I do, but first I want to address one comment here. Chuck Holt said, Jeep did. See if we pop it up. Jeep did win a couple world wars, but no big deal. I think he was talking about. I'm not a big history buff, but didn't Ford help make those Jeeps for World War II?
Yes, and it
Google
wasn't Jeep's. It wasn't Jeep's design. It was Willie's design. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Google it.
also,
Google it, Chuck. I think
also,
that, Bronco's going to take that one as well.
and I don't think that Jeep was in the First World War, only the Second World War. So,
how lame of them. All right, Mark, let's go through the Fast Five Facts here. New or old vehicle?
Old, but I do have a first-gen Raptor that I'm currently building. So,
Nice.
is it legitimate? Is it legitimate? Did it come from Alaska? And
yeah, I hope so. It's wrecked and it's old, so I hope it's legit.
Summer or winter camping?
Well, summer, actually, spring and fall, actually, because the summers get pretty hot here. But I do camp in the summer, and I currently don't camp too much in the cold winter because I don't have a good rig with a good heater for camping. But it's on my bucket list.
you got to check out these new.
Let's get back to
diesel
my new and
heaters.
old rigs. Do you all have any questions about my rigs, plural?
Oh, we're going to get to that.
We're gonna
Okay.
we're gonna get that after the Fast Five Facts. We're gonna get
Okay.
there.
Okay. All right.
All right. Rock, sand, snow, or mud?
D, all or E, all the above. I
All
love
the
it all.
above.
That's the first. I think that's the first we've gotten all of the above
Yeah.
on that one.
And favorite vehicle brand?
I'm a Chevy guy, but I have a few Jeeps. My CJ5 has a small block Chevy in it, so that tells you kind of. But I like them all. They're I'm a V8 guy, so V8's a big plus. But I'm a straight axle guy in the front too, so I like them all.
All right. And
That's
favorite,
such a politician's answer, isn't it? To say, I like them all.
yeah, well, that's kind of how everybody does this question. Nobody has, except for Jeep guys. They're pretty much into Jeeps, but everybody else who's not a Jeep guy kind of likes a couple of everything, to be honest. All right. And favorite tire?
Well, for mud, I like boggers. For sand, I like super scoopers. And I got a Dodge truck with Patagonias on it. I kind of like those for like rocks and dry terrain.
All good tires. All right. Any recommendation to somebody new to off-roading? Just one piece of advice, basically.
Well, I've thought about this, and I've got more than one piece of advice. For one thing, if you see a nice rig at the gas station or you're walking into a store, drum up a conversation with them and see if they're a poser or if they really have some information about what's going on locally as far as rides or clubs goes. Next is something that you probably haven't heard anybody say, but check with your local Secretary of State and see if there are actual registered four-wheel drive clubs that have a little charter where they're either a nonprofit or whatever, incorporated. And then thirdly, look on social media for social clubs to see if you have any friends currently on there that you could become a member of. How's that?
That
That's
is
perfect.
all good advice.
I'm starting as we're talking. I'm making a list of vehicles that you keep saying that you own here. So you haven't mentioned one, but I know about it through social media, and that's like a '69 Dodge Charger.
Yeah.
But so we're up to 6 so far.
Yeah. These all run too. The ones we've been talking about run.
The way you say that makes it sound like maybe you have some that don't amount that.
Rick Payway and myself, we always enjoy our conversations because some of his runs, some don't.
Nice.
So tell us how you got started in off-roading.
Well, when I was a young kid, my dad became a member of a local four-wheel drive club. It was incorporated, very professional, had president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. They had weekly club meetings and weekly trail rides. We met on Friday night and rode every Sunday. So I got a lot of wheeling in when I was a kid. He started off actually as a Volkswagen bug guy, and he'd bring our whole family, just me and my sister, my mom, dad. And he tells this story. I don't remember it, but he could back up and hit these obstacles. Back then it was like mud obstacles here. And he would hit them wide open as fast as that little bug would go. And he would go through places that four-wheel drives would have problem getting through. He said, but when they got 1200s, that's what they called them back then. When they got 1200s, he had to upgrade, and he got a Blazer with 35 gumbos and 456 gears and lockers in both ends. So,
was it a lifted bug, like a Baja bug?
it was a Baja bug, but he had built it himself from a new wreck, so it wasn't rusty. And so fun story. There's pictures of it with the front end like a couple feet in the air, but he would hit it wide open like in second gear, and it had a fairly stock engine in it, and he would power downshift it. Like he wouldn't let up on the throttle, and he would jam it in first.
Whoa!
He would no lift downshift.
Yes.
That is so. I've never heard of that, and that is one of the most amazing skill sets. Wow, that's awesome.
That would keep the horsepower up there,
Yeah, I'm pour up those cylinders.
That's awesome. What was the first vehicle you took off road?
78 Bronco with Q78s and about a 4-6 inch lift. And these Q78s were on 10-inch chrome modular wheels, and on the side of the tire it says recommended for a 7-inch wheel, and they were on 10s. But it actually looked good. They were Grand Prix, if y'all ever heard of that. Or no, they might have been 4-wheel RVTs, but they had a groundhog looking tread, but is a really tough old vehicle.
You're saying all these tire brands that I remember from like when I was a kid, like Gumbo Butters.
Yeah.
Like I haven't thought of that in forever. Groundhogs, that's funny. What is your favorite rig to hit the trail in?
I've got a 98 360 ZJ that I built with 35s on both ends and lockers in both ends. I threw the sway bars over the hill, and it's got some pretty good character from road rash, and I don't really have to worry about it. I can have fun in it. It's not like the best rig on the trail, but it's really capable. And someday I hope to build me like a really good rig, but it's my go-to rig for now.
I'm probably pretty comfortable too. If I remember, those ZJs are pretty cush inside.
This thing costs $39,000 new. Of course, I bought it at the salvage auction, but it's got heated leather, steering wheel, radio controls, everything.
What's your most embarrassing moment on the trail?
Do you know what? Off the top of my head, it happened yesterday in my XJ. So
well, of course it did. It was an XJ.
He started up and drove it out on the street and was super embarrassed.
So please do not ask me what size tires my XJ has. Okay, just don't ask me. I didn't build it. So anyway, so I was leaving Snowshoe Ski Resort, and I call this rig Campy. I saw the gumbo flash up there. I saw this rig. All right, my rig is called Campy, and I got a homework assignment for all you guys and all our listeners. Look up, there's the gumbo. Look up the word Campy and you'll see why I call it campy, because it's red, white, and blue with stars on it. The wheels are blue. So I camp in it, but that's not why I call it campy. Anyway, so I was leaving Snowshoe, and I thought, I want to get a picture of campy with a snowshoe sign. Well, they'd plowed the roads, and the side of the road looked really level, and I wanted to get out of the way of traffic. So I pulled in a little bank. Well, it was a really deep ditch, and I hit axles like, boom, just stuck. So I thought, now what am I going to do? Well, I got a winch on it, and so this guy in this Subaru that was about a quarter of my age says, hey, man, you need any help? And so it had a trailer hitch on the back of it. He's like, just hook your winch to my trailer hitch. And I was like, I got a tow strap. So I hooked the tow strap, and it was like stuck on the axle. So this little stock Subaru, he was, getting a run and go. Well, he finally got me out. And after he got me out, I smelled his clutch. I was like, oops, I hope his clutch.
Oh.
Supposedly his girlfriend was videoing from inside, but after he pulled me out, we took a selfie behind my XJ. So and that was just yesterday. Good times.
Josh in the comments was asking if Snowshoe has any off-roading trails.
They don't, and I'm actually going to work with them to try to do something. They have had Jeep Jamboree there, and they have some GNCC events, which is like a hare scrambles, four-wheeler stuff. But that's a good point, and I need to make sure that it's a beautiful facility, and it's a unique lodge where all the lodge is on top of the mountain. It's a 6-mile road. You get to the top of the mountain, and then you ski down and then lift back up. So pretty cool.
Oh, wow. Josh is a neighbor of yours. He lives in Ohio, so not too far away. Yeah. He actually drove out to Pacific Northwest last year, and we got to hang out with him. So he's always looking for places to wheel.
I'll work on it.
The next question here is, what is your biggest win on the trail?
Well, my dad, he's 85 now, and this is about 12 years ago. He had a TJ with long arm, bead locks, 37 Wranglers, Atlas 2, full cage, winch on a 19,000 mile perfect TJ body. And we took it to Moab and got to do some wheeling, went out to Cliffhanger and came back. And it was a stick shift, and I have a new appreciation for rock crawling with a stick shift. And I've always seen people do it, and I thought they were being hot dogs and showing off. But, if you've got 3 pedals in the floor, you have to commit, and you can't think about it. You have to do it. And so it was a lot of fun.
Just like that Subaru driver.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I also achieved the bucket list item a few months ago. I rented a 4Runner. You all were talking about 4Runner. It was a TRD. I was at a conference in Santa Barbara, and I went to Pismo Beach. And, I've read about Pismo or Oceano Dunes since I was a teenager, in my 4-wheeler magazines, and drove on the beach. I was by myself. I met a buddy of mine, Jared McLeod, there, and he was actually took me out on the dunes in his Raptor. So that's a pretty big bucket list item for me.
Was the Raptor a good vehicle to drive around all the homeless encampments and stuff and get over to Pismo Beach?
I actually didn't see any there, but there was people camping. So
I'm gonna bite my tongue. Let's keep going.
I did some snooping. I found a picture of your XJ.
That's it. That was actually on Adventure Appalachia, which is put on by a good friend of mine, Jerry Bain, and he plans everything out. We camp 3 or 4 days, and you should look it up. It's a lot of fun.
If Ricky Bobby drove an XJ,
Yeah, I know.
It is like NASCAR lettering on the side. I think that's great.
Yeah, it's got some kind of Richard Petty.
The French family will be calling me now. I'm kidding. So, did anybody look up what campy means?
I tried to Google campy, and I was unsuccessful.
You got to look on Urban Dictionary.
All right, is that like a campy movie kind of thing? Is what you're saying?
Yeah. It's like over the top.
Okay.
To the point of being.
I'm familiar with campy then. Yeah.
Corny or cheesy, campy.
Yeah.
Where's your favorite place to wheel? If you could just name one.
You know, it's, and I'm sure you guys are the same way, or a lot of our listeners, my home riding place. And it is the East Lynn Lake area. And there's 25,000 acres of government, like federal government owned area. And it used to be a community, and they bought the entire watershed. And it's got miles and miles of public dirt road on this 25,000 acres. My state and local and the federal government really doesn't take advantage of it. And the only way you know about it is by word of mouth. And the only way you know about it is if somebody knows where the roads go and take you there. But I'm going to work on it here and try to make something happen there. It's in my Senate district, and it's about 12 or 15 miles away from my house. And like I can ride there every weekend and have fun every weekend. So
that's awesome.
Are there any places that you haven't gone that you want to go to?
Glamis and Silver Lake, Michigan, and Little Sahara in Oklahoma. I visited Ocotillo Wells. I've never wheeled there, but you know, I want to visit them all.
Before the show, you said a really strange word that we had to ask you to repeat. So you were starting to tell us about a place called Cabway Lingo, and we heard cowboy lingo, but it's actually Cabway Lingo. Can you first tell us what Cabway Lingo is like? How does that word exist? And what kind of place is it? And then what kind of work did you do there?
Well, that's a combination of 4 counties that could use this. It's located in my home county of Wayne, but it takes the 4 counties of Cabell, Wayne, Lincoln, and Mingo. And someone came up with the name Cabway Lingo. And it is a state forest that has state park amenities. And these amenities were built in the late 30s, I guess, or in the 30s by a CCC group, Civilian Conservation Corps. And there's amazing log cabins with beautiful stone work all throughout the park. It's about 6,000 acres. And it's my home park. And when I got elected to the Senate, I heard rumors that they were going to shut it down and they were going to lay off all the employees and just let the weeds take it over and let it become a wildlife management area. And I found out that it was losing $350,000 a year. Nobody was visiting it. It's a secluded area, hard to get to. And so I started doing some brainstorming. At the time, I had a Tundra with 37s on it. And I went up and just did some nosing around, looked around, went everywhere I could that there wasn't a gate, took some pictures, made a post on Facebook, and I got 632 shares, which is not the norm for me. So I took it the next step, talked to the DNR, got permission to take my ZJ up there and go where I wanted to check things out. And I had a meeting with the Department of Natural Resources, that's what I call DNR. And I told them about my the potential to turn, some of the property into an off-road park. And I had to make legislation, and believe it or not, it passed the Senate, passed the House, the governor signed it as a 2-year pilot project. And so Hatfield, they put it out for bid. Hatfield McCoy got the bid. They built trails down. It's a really nice destination. When Ultimate Adventure came through this summer, we actually rode some of the trails, spent the night there. I got to hang out with everyone from Ultimate Adventure, and it was a lot of fun. It's an honor, actually, for me to be a part of that. So, that's Cabway Lingo. Your listeners should check it out.
Yeah, you actually came up in our Ultimate Adventure podcast episode a few months back. They mentioned something about get out of jail free card.
Yeah. Yeah, we all behaved ourselves though.
Good.
So, so this Cabway Lingo was a 2-year project, and it had to get renewed. and become a permanent part of our code. Unfortunately, not everyone I serve with is so off-road friendly. And so I had to make the decision of letting the bill, so someone amended it to make it the only project in the state of West Virginia that allows something like this. And they saved this state park, but one of my fellow senators made an amendment to make it the only one. And of course, I wanted to be available to do this in any other state or, state-owned land that could save an area, And so I had to take one for the team just for this one project to live. And unfortunately, we had a senator that made it to where nothing like this can be repeated in the state of West Virginia. I'll not mention any names.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Super cool.
In government, though, when they say, "Hey, we're only going to do this once," or I feel like that kind of that gets kicked down the road. Like
it can, I can if I come up with another project, I can introduce legislation, or I could go in at any time and change that. But I would be fought with resistance because sometimes when I get up on the floor, and make a passionate speech about off-roading, many of these legislators that's never been out, on the trails, just look at me like I've got one eye on my forehead or something. But, I keep fighting the fight and I'll continue to do it.
Before we move on, Rick in the comments, your favorite trail in or near West Virginia? Just
I don't know if there's any badge of honors off the top of my head, but it's my East Lynn Lake area, the 25,000 acres there that belong to the federal government. There's a trail there called Apple Orchard. That's my favorite trail, but it's not nationally known, but the whole area is fun.
All right. How often do you meet with groups like Blue Ribbon Coalition and or SEMA?
Well, I chat with them, with SEMA quite a few times a month. And then I have my board meetings for Blue Ribbon Coalition because I'm an actual board member once a month. And then we have committee meetings and we meet in person twice a year. And it's such an honor to be a board member of BRC. And but then I also talk to Tread Lightly and Novak and NAMRAC, and I try to stay in touch with all of them and be there if I can help in any way.
So how much do you hate the carb standards as much as the rest of us gearheads?
All of my life I have hated them, or most of my life I've hated them. But I've had to go to California a few times on conferences and stuff, and over the years, even years ago, I went to California. I can remember when the sun really didn't shine there. So I hate to say, I think some of these crazy, and this is probably not going to sit well with your listeners, but I guess some of these crazy restrictions are just cleaning our air. But my big problem is the people that have legitimate off-road use and or motorsports use where the industry and the manufacturers are getting pinged with six-figure fines for Joe Bob that puts a cat delete pipe on his truck and drives it on the street. Now, to me, that's not the manufacturer's fault. They're building that part for racing and or off-road use. So I would actually someday like to do something in DC to protect these manufacturers, because now we're running out of parts to choose from for off-road motorsports use because they're afraid to make them and manufacture them because of the fines they get. So.
Yeah. It's not the actual standard of carb that bothers me. It bothers me that there's actually standards that are federal, that is what the requirement is, but then California being such a large market share, just like, hey, we're going to make our own rules for you to sell stuff here, and they just have to meet that higher standard that California can make, which doesn't feel very democratic. They're it's kind of a hostile takeover of of the standard in a way.
And that's a great point. And I hate to say I'm not super familiar with CARB standards because I, don't have a vehicle license there. But so I am all about being against over-regulation. I guess, we need some regulation, but, anytime they go above and beyond what they actually need, that's when I step in.
Or is there
an insurrection happening at your Capitol right now? There's like an alarm going off or something's beeping.
I hear that. I'm so sorry. I can take care of that. I didn't hear it until you mentioned it. But if it's bothersome, I can turn it off.
If that's something, if you want to grab that real quick.
Okay, I'll do it.
All right.
It's his 85-year-old dad's oxygen meter right now. He's gonna get it. So wait till
So I'm normally not in my office at 10:30 p.m. So but I was here last week late, and I heard that, and I thought it was a backup beeper on a truck outside the window here, and it just never went away. And I went in there at my administrative assistant's office, and it's a digital alarm clock on his desk, and for some reason the alarm's going. And I tried to mess with it, but I thought, well, it doesn't matter because I'm never here 10:30 at 9. So
it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's funny. No, that makes for fun content.
Yeah.
All right. How about this? So this is kind of similar to the last question there. Do you have any thoughts on the way low emission solutions are evolving and if they will be a long-term solution? Some examples would be the DEF exhaust fluid, hybrid vehicles, battery electric vehicles, BEVs, anything like that. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm an internal combustion guy. I just love it. It's near and dear to my heart. But I think that, there's a place for everything. I don't have a problem with electric vehicles, but I don't want to be told, what we have to phase out by a certain year. If they can pass tests of clean air. I tell you what, I wasn't planning on mentioning this, but a friend of mine, and his name's leaving me right now, but he has developed an engine to run on hydrogen, and it actually cleans the carbon out of the air coming out of the exhaust. And it's terrible. I cannot remember his name. He's going to kill me. He is a retired GM engineer. He had all the fun with all the hot rod projects back in the 90s. And his first name's Mike, but I wasn't ready. But
I know you said he's going to kill you, but I'm assuming he's about to be killed at any moment.
Yeah, for safety's sake, maybe we don't mention his name so that
that's good. We'll just refer to him
oil
as Mike.
The oil corporations are going to come find Mike.
Well, if you'll still need to change oil in your car, and hydrogen may be a byproduct of these petroleum companies. I don't know, but anyway, he's going to be my savior for internal combustion, hopefully. But this phasing out of, if they can make these engines, be emission free, then I want to see everything available myself.
Yeah. And we on the podcast don't have a problem with hybrids and electric vehicles. In fact, I love the fact that some electric vehicles provide you with so much torque, or the fact that you can drive around in nature silently and sneak up on creatures and things like that out there. I think that's great. But like you say, I don't want, when somebody says I have to do something, that's when the barriers go up and I'm like, do I really? Yeah. So I don't like being told what to do. In fact, I don't think most people like being told what to do.
I like to offset the positive vibes of the EVs by using it to silently road hunt and kill as many wild game as possible. The one that I always find interesting is the DEF fluid, because I know it's supposed to make, it cleans the particulate filter out in a diesel vehicle, but they make this stuff in Canada, and a lot, it's not like it's locally sourced, and it gets shipped in this plastic container that's then stuck in a cardboard box across the country. So I could pour it in my diesel truck, and then I just have this plastic and cardboard. It just seems like there's no way that it's making a positive net effect if you actually calculate in shipping this stuff from North Dakota or wherever it's being manufactured, and all the plastic. Like, you see those plastic jugs on the side of the road and stuff all the time.
Yeah, good point. Back when there was the Cash for Clunkers, I read in Hot Rod Magazine that the emission created from building the new car was more than that 95 Explorer would have made in its entire life cycle.
Wow.
I mean, to be fair, the Explorers only got 100,000 miles before they broke down.
That's true. True.
But I remember hearing like, oh, I had that, and I did a Cash for Clunkers, and it was a nice Jeep or a few Toyotas. It's a shame of what was lost with that.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm pretty sure those vehicles were crushed and recycled, as opposed to picked apart and parts and pieces saved to be sold on the secondhand market and recycled that way, as opposed to just a scrap of metal. Yeah.
I heard they poured glass in the oil, like a liquid glass, and started up, and it would just like fry the engine back in the day. So
yeah, it was like a silica sand or something like that, but something along those lines. Yeah.
That's we're from the government. We're here to help. What do you see, or how do you see the future of America and its love for motorsports? Because like that's like an American tradition, pretty much all forms of motorsports. And it seems like that's changing slowly.
It is, but it's going to take people like me that are in a position to make a difference. And I recommend individuals getting involved, getting to know your legislators, find out what Senate district you live in, the state Senate, what House district you live in, know your congressman, know your U.S. senators, let them know you exist. Come to the Capitol, meet them, organize groups to come to the Capitol. If you've got land that's being closed, or if you've got land that's been closed and you want it opened up. Before I was elected, I didn't think one person had a voice. I had a small business, still do, and it's family owned. And when we'd see that state vehicle pull in with state tags back in the day, probably an XJ or Liberty back in the day, we would cringe, and they would tell us what new regulation that we had to conform to, and we would just do it. But I didn't realize we have a voice as citizens, and we can go voice our concerns to legislators, and we can tell these bureaucrats no. So it's my piece of advice.
I love that. I'm gonna give you a tiny bit of pushback though. Like my neighboring state, Washington, they voted on $26 car tabs, which passed twice. And then they said, nah, it's not going to work out. It's still going to be $700 every year. Yeah. I actually, as I've gotten older, I used to listen to a lot of talk radio and be more into politics. But as I've gotten older, I've felt more and more helpless because I don't know, you watch the news and it's like, I don't know which congressman was on Epstein Island. Like, and it just feels like, what am I going to, what's going to I just focus it on why my groceries are $60 for one bag. And then you go, it's like, what can I do? Like I voted the way I voted this whole time. And if I had voted for the opposite, would it have changed anything? It's a horrible outlook, maybe.
I probably shouldn't say this, and I don't think I've ever said this for the world to hear, but the more I see, the more it's about money, I hate to say. And a lot of times people come down the list. I hate to say that, but, it's like with your case in the $700 thing, money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's my case.
Yeah, it was almost my case. I lived in the zone that it was only a quote unquote small region of Washington, and I fell in that zone, and I was in the process of moving to Oregon. I'm going to admit that I committed tax fraud or whatever here on the air. I drove for 2 months without current tabs on my vehicle, so that I didn't have to pay Washington $700 right before I moved to Oregon and had to pay Oregon. So didn't get pulled over. Did
I
all
like
right.
how they called it a small region, but what they really meant was most densely populated.
Correct. Yeah.
And so I am on the border of that. The RTA tax is what it is. I'm on the border. I am a block away from the edge of it, of where I wouldn't have to pay that. And so my what would be my $20 car tabs is $176 for my
Get all your
2000s.
buddies together and throw those tabs in the harbor.
No, I figured we'd throw the Starbucks in the harbor in the Sound. So what do you think is the best way to navigate the trail and public land closures, such as like the big ones that just happened down in Moab, Utah?
Get involved with the national organizations like Blue Ribbon Coalition. And I don't mean to plug Blue Ribbon Coalition, but they fight land closures, whereas Tread Lightly does a great job by promoting good land stewardship. But just get together with a club that will fight these closures, and be a voice. I kind of know what's going on because I stay involved, but all these legislators that are making decisions, they have to be educated by the public. And lobbyists actually do that if there's somebody paying the lobbyists. So you can be a lobbyist off the street technically, and you don't have to even register as a lobbyist as long as you're not getting paid. And you can come in and inform the legislators and set up a meeting. And here, I don't know about other states, but here, you can get a meeting with the senators and the House members and voice your concerns. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So that's what I advise the listeners.
At the dinner table tonight, they always ask me what my podcast is going to be about on Monday nights. And I mentioned that you were going to be coming on, and we were going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff, including land use and land closures and things like that. And my kids are 9 and 12, and they were befuddled why someone would want to close a trail down and prevent someone from off-roading on it. And I gave them my answer, but I'm curious if someone asked you why do people want to close trails, what kind of answer can you give them?
I've actually got two answers. One is a group of people that are, concerned about the environment, that are afraid of sedimentation, damage to the terrain, and don't want anything disrupted. That's one group. And another group, to me, and again, I'm probably going to get in trouble with this, but would be the land managers. I try to put myself in their shoes, and I think, is it easier for me to gate this land and not allow access, or allow everybody to use it, and me getting a phone call at 3 a.m. with somebody that's tried to take a Toyota Tercel as far as it go, and or going out and dumping trash and stuff. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for the land managers, but if we just all step up and little by little adopt these trails that allow. I was talking to Tom Zielinski with Forfest today, and he's also with USAC, and he knew everybody I knew, and he was visiting our capital today, and he was tied in with Tread Lightly pretty tightly, and he's talking about just let us have one trail and manage it and keep it clean. So I think it's just going to have to take one bite of the apple at a time, to get stuff opened up that's currently closed, and know the right person, talk to the right person, adopt the trail, and manage it, and prove that we can behave ourselves. What do you guys think of that?
Do you guys have snowmobile clubs? Like, is there enough snow for that kind of activity
There's
there?
not. There's been a few recognized snowmobile trails, but for the last 20 years, we haven't had any snow to speak of.
In our neck of the woods, there are big snowmobile clubs, and if the off-road industry could organize like those guys, and I don't know if it's because snowmobile seems like it's kind of more of a older person, at least in this area. There are a lot of 40s, a little older. Those guys get grants. They get massive sections dedicated to them. Like the work they get done on like the legislative level blows my mind every time. And it's insane, like what they're able to accomplish.
We've got a couple of snowmobilers in Blue Ribbon Coalition, Jack Welch and Joni Mogstead, and they're a real asset. They bring some insight and fight the good fight.
Well, those guys get like grants and get like $500,000 snowcats bought for them and warming shelters, and like I never cease to be impressed by their organization, and I wish the off-road community had a little more of that. All right, speaking of Moab, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was going to say one argument snowmobilers have is they're technically not disturbing the terrain.
Yeah,
because they're on top of snow. So
I'm gonna agree with that, I guess. But I've seen what those guys do. I don't want to driving across lakes and stuff in the high mountains. Speaking of Moab, how do you recommend that like the average American can fight against an organization like SUA, South Utah Wilderness Alliance? You rolled your eyes, so you know who they are. When those guys have the backing of a literal Swiss billionaire, I don't even know how to say his name, Hans-Georg Weiss.
That was good. That was really good, Coy. You just spat it right out, and I'm pretty sure that's right.
Well,
don't try it again. Just rest on those laurels.
I assume that's what it is. My Swiss is a little rusty, and then I went down like a full Alex Jones Google session on these guys not long ago, and they have their own political sub nonprofit called RUP, Rural Utah Project, which they funnel money they get into that to endorse candidates and influence politics in their direction in Utah and Arizona and around there. And there's an argument to be made that they're bringing stuff to people who wouldn't vote normally. Like, I'm not saying that RUP doesn't do a good thing at all politically, but obviously, since they technically own them and fund them, and they're endorsing candidates and commissioners and all these elected, lower level politicians, like they're swaying stuff in their favor from the ground up. And then, we all sign, we all went on in, the Moab closure. We all signed, don't close it. And then BLM's like, never mind. We'll take the hardest route, the worst possible choice. How do you fight against something like that?
Well, they're smart, and that's how you do things. But we can do the same. We have the same opportunity. We probably don't have the money that they do, but we've got the people. And I think a grassroots effort and watchdogs placed everywhere at any town council meeting. Here we call them county commission meetings, and we just need to be ready to fight and bring these points out that shows, being out on these trails is therapeutic for me, and I'm sure it is a lot of others. And to take that away would take a piece of my life away. So, just be the squeaky wheel, get involved with an organization that is fighting, like a local club, Blue Ribbon Coalition, and just be relentless. And actually, let me add this: contact your legislators, contact your congressman, and don't let up. Continually visit them and make them see the light and get involved with campaigns as well. You find so these candidates are wanting votes. Question them before they get elected. What's your point, or what's your position on land access? And you find the one that has a positive outlook, and you help that candidate win, just like what they're doing. That grassroots effort.
I also, before we move on to the next question, Hans-Georg Weiss, I want to point out that he's known as the most charitable billionaire to give it all these conservationists, which are mostly not pro. They're pro hiking and so on and so forth, not necessarily pro use. He made all his money with a medical device company that he sold for $20-something billion to Johnson & Johnson. So while he's super charitable, apparently he made all this money selling medical implants and screws. So made his company worth $20 million. So I don't know how charitable he was till he sold, but it sounds like he was really leveraging capitalism to his advantage there.
Wow. Interesting.
Travis in the comments said we need to take notes from the European farmers on how they protest.
Yes.
If you're not familiar with that, they like to drive their tractors with their manure spreaders into town and unload their manure spreaders into Capitol buildings and in front of mayors' houses and things like that. So, and then Rick in the comment says sometimes it takes a full tank of gas before I can think straight. And I'm on that same page with you, Rick. Not only is driving like a passion of mine, but like it's therapy. It really is therapy.
Honestly, these German protests, it's like the first time I was like, we need to do it like the Germans. The history's been like, do it opposite of them mostly, but yeah, that the first time in my life I ever found myself being like, yeah, we need to do those kind of politics like the Germans. But yeah, I loved what this Germans did on.
It would be amazing to drag rocks and like just put them in front of the Capitol and rock crawl in front of the Capitol.
That's not a bad idea.
I don't know if you've seen our Capitol, man. It's got marble steps and stuff. Like you don't need to even bring rocks.
But they can drive across the fountain. So your state has an adventure travel day coming up on February 15th through the 17th. Can you tell us more about that?
It's grown every year, and we have a few rigs on display outside the Capitol. It started out as like a rally, and we met on a Saturday. We took some legislators for rides, and then we started inviting the public, and it's grown over the years. And now inside of our Marble Rotunda, people come and have information tables set up. And then we usually have a meet and greet afterwards. This year, we're going to have a overland experience after the day of the displays at a local piece of property nearby. And for anybody that wants to come check out what's involved in overlanding, they're welcome to do that. And my guys at the Country Road Coalition, Jerry Bain, Brian Holmes, Chris Shannon, Marcus Yonkers, Nico Bowden, they all help me, and none of us have any money involved. We just do it because we love it. And Jerry has this thing called Adventure Appalachia, and many of you should look it up on YouTube. He plans these trips. Brian Holmes, he's a pharmacist doctor that has plotted these routes on he's a Jeep guy, but he's also adventure, dual sport adventure bike guy. And Nico Bowden is the president of the West Virginia Jeep Club. And they all come together, and it's all donating at a time. We're actually going to have a mock campsite set up in the Rotunda, and Jerry Bain and some of the members are going to be cooking pancakes,
nice,
like they would at the campsite. So, looking forward to that.
So, it originally started out as a way to show some legislators what off-roading was about. Mm-hmm. They need to do that with like some firearms and stuff within the Capitol and stuff, because these guys don't understand how guns work. And I could see this being useful for like the whole education thing, like, literally, hey, this is what jeeping is. It's not as crazy as you think. You don't need some $50,000 rock crawler to go have fun the weekend. Your average Jim Joe Bob can go out and have fun in his beat up Toyota, just like your next door neighbor in her Jeep can. And
exactly.
it's a family thing. That's awesome. It's good to see that you're out there educating your fellow legislators, like, hey, this is.
Do you get people from both sides of the aisle when you were doing this and inviting other legislators? Were people from both sides of the aisles jumping in rigs and maybe going for a spin?
Yeah. The participation wasn't what it should have been, but yeah, it was well received. I want to tell you how I can't take credit for the name Adventure Travel Day, but let me tell you, we called it off highway vehicles, off road, and I had a guy that's in our circle says, listen, when people hear off highway vehicles that are not familiar with what we do, they think you're on the road and you go down off of the highway where there's no trail.
Well, Ben does that. Ben does that. He goes right into Ben does that. He goes right in the ditch. That's how he off-roads, just into the ditch. No, I can totally see that. Yeah. People don't know.
I've caught that many times. And a lot of people that are new into owning off-road vehicles, they're like, oh yeah, I can just literally pull off of here and find my own trail or make my own trail. And it's like, no, it's not how that works. And it's down to that education thing. So it's kind of great that that's an opportunity to educate people that it's not some ridiculous thing.
I've also heard out where Mark lives that there is a lot of country roads, but they actually all just lead home. So that's probably an issue.
Yeah.
Oh man. So you guys have the West Virginia Adventure Travel Day coming up, and Josh, you should check that out because it's coming up in like 3 weeks. But do you have some other events that you guys do out throughout the year?
Actually, coming up, I also have West Virginia Motorsports Day. But before we get on that, I want to make our rotunda available to any listeners that are within driving distance that would want to set up an information table for their club. They don't have to be from West Virginia. Their club, an off-road manufacturer, it's all free. But all I ask is that you RSVP. We provide the tables, the chairs, and should have room for anybody that wants to come and display. You need to email myonker 219@gmail.com, MYONKER 219@gmail.com, and he's the one taking our RSVPs. And so we open up our capital to you. We also are parking rigs outside, and we've got room for, I think, about 30 or more to let the rooftop tents be displayed, and so some of the legislators can see what we actually do.
Josh, represent us.
Yeah.
So do you guys send somebody in with like a snowblower to blow all the rust off the rotund when you're done?
We've got the trail rule as you pack out what you pack in. But back to the West Virginia Motorsports Day, it's February 23rd. And SEMA and PRI always involved. Next year, I'm going to get those 2 days back to back because we've got a little overlap from motorsports and adventure travel. And the guy that's handling that is Jedediah Smith. And his name is Jedediah, like in the Bible. JEDEDIAH.Smith.WV at backroadsofappalachia.org. He's taking the RSVPs for the Rotunda information tables, and it can be off-road parks, anything motorsports related for that too. So we would like to have you. He's got this event coming up, and y'all should look it up. It's called 24 Hours of Appalachia. And through his position at Backroads of Appalachia, they're going to do a 600-mile route in 24 hours on public roads in West Virginia. Now, some of them aren't like Cadillac Traversable, but it's going to be pretty neat. So
Is he going to show us how to pick sang? That's all I know about that place. It's go there pick ginseng.
what's that now? Run that by me.
Is he going to show anybody how to pick ginseng while he's there?
Oh.
That's all I know about that place.
Possibly, yeah.
That's sang.
Yeah. So anyway,
any other events besides those coming up? That 24 hours one sounds really cool. I do wish I was closer. It sounds like you guys have a lot of fun stuff.
I didn't mention this earlier, but tonight at a reception I attended, I saw some people from Tucker County. And my dad sand drag raced since 1980 with this gentleman by the name of Tom Hardy. He's president of Tucker County Four Wheelers. And they hold an event in the town of Parsons, West Virginia on Memorial Day weekend called Challenge in the Hills. And it's a sand drag race that's went on for years and years. And I saw one of the county commissioners tonight at a reception, so I want to plug them. And I shouldn't really mention any events because we have quite a few good off-road events in the state. But off the top of my head, that's all I can think of right now.
All right. If somebody is unhappy with any legislation in their state, no matter what it is, not even off-road related, what should they do?
Find out what state Senate district you live in. Find out what House district you live in. Get the email, get the phone number, call, get a meeting set up. Come and see your legislator face to face. Most of the time you can if you're persistent enough. And get your friends, spread the word, make posts on social media, let the world know about the issue you have. And once you find the way to get your voice heard, let everyone else know about it. And like I say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Along those same lines, how do we find more people like you, Mark Maynard, in where we live so we can get behind what you do? How would I go about that at Oregon where I live? How do I find another person like you? How do I research and know what your values and ideals are?
Usually there's a bio, and in my bio, you can tell that I'm an off-roader. A lot of times it will tell what they have memberships in, etc. And you can use your bio, and if they're a member of some environmental group, chances are they won't be really friendly with you for opening up trails. But that's my best way of initially starting, and then just definitely your representatives, both in the House and the Senate, because they're the ones knowing that you will be voting and your family will be voting. So they're the ones that you have the most leverage with. And then through the process, find out which ones are friendly, and then you can also help them in their campaign, make sure you get good ones in and bad ones out.
That's the important part. The bad ones out.
Well, one last question for you, Mark. Where can our listeners find you?
If you search for Mark R. Maynard, I'm almost the only one. Definitely, that's what I'm listed on his Facebook, Instagram. I'm out there. I don't make like 100% political posts. I just kind of like post my real life, what I do, and try to put topics of interest that I feel like my constituents would value. And then sometimes just for fun. So I wanted to say something. I took legislation from Utah and got what's called an SPV, a special purpose vehicle. And you can license side-by-sides, rock buggies, and some different vehicles here in the state for limited highway use. I'm pretty proud of that.
Nice.
Today I had about 7 environmentalists come in my office at one time, and I knew what they wanted when they were here. And so I asked them what they thought about how someone that was physically disabled could access this land that they didn't want anybody on. And they agreed to Class 1 and Class 3 e-bikes, which I know doesn't really help our immediate call some, but that's a step, and everybody here agreed to it. So I'm gonna get them on the phone, get them on an email with Ben Burr, and get that started ASAP. Because that'll be a little bit of a help. But we need to work on disabled access, and even some people can't even ride an e-bike. And, the therapy that we feel when we're out there, that would be so good for them. So I'm going to work on that. Also, I've got an idea of wildlife viewing. I don't hunt. I think I'm the only dude in West Virginia that doesn't hunt, but I do like to see a white-tailed buck, popping across the trail. And you can keep this in mind in other states. A lot of federal funding is tied to wildlife on some of this property, like wildlife management areas. But my goal is to get the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to appreciate wildlife viewing as a wildlife recreation, to where we could access some of the remote areas, look at the wildlife, and our state still receive these federal funds. So anyway, you guys can take that and run with it.
That was one of the talking points I had with my kids at dinner was, how does a person in a wheelchair get out into nature if the roads are closed down? They can't get there.
Yeah, we're going to be fighting for that. So hopefully,
what bugs me is the moving goalpost all the time, because they'll be like, okay, e-bikes, and then we're all like, all right, we'll do e-bikes, and then somebody's like, I came up with a kit to make your e-bike have 75 horsepower. And then we're all like, heck yeah. And then they're like, hey, not that e-bike though. And it's like, hey, I followed your rule. I paid $7,800 for an e-bike that had the same power as a 2-stroke dirt bike. We should be good. But no.
These people up here, they call it the camel's nose under the tent.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell y'all real quick a dream of mine. So I've got a 74 Blazer with a big block Chevy in it, 4 inches of lift, and I've got a set of super scoopers on a set of weld wheels. And my plans are to have it at SEMA this year. I also have a 671 blower and dual fours I plan on putting on it, and I want to do like a whole Western swing. Put my scoopers on to go to Glamis and Pismo, put my 35 1250s on to go to Moab, represent Sand Sports at SEMA. I'm working with Dave Kuski, so if Dave is listening or anybody knows Dave, you need to tell him to poke me and make me do this and get my Blazer out there, represent Sand Sports. So that's my goal for the year.
Nice. That's a good goal.
We met Dave at a meet and greet in SEMA. In fact, he may have been the one that called you on the phone and said, "Get up here."
It was Dave who did.
Yeah, that's right.
And Dave, talk about meeting someone who could just connect you. Dave was amazing for helping us make connections. I cannot underrate him. I cannot rate him high enough for making connections. And it was amazing because he's big into sand sports, but he's like, oh, not really into off-roading or overlanding, but sand sports, I like that a lot. And planes. He could talk your ears off about planes.
Yeah. He's passionate. Yeah.
Yes, he was.
We didn't actually get to this part, but just how many? Let's go through your running vehicles. Like, we've been slowly putting together our own list as a show.
It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. Well, here, real quick, I'll tell you what I've heard so far. I've got a CJ5 with a Chevy 350. We've got a first gen Raptor, an Xterra on Swampers, a Jeep XJ in red, white, and blue. You mentioned a Dodge truck, but you didn't say anything more about the Dodge truck. You've got a General Lee Dodge Challenger, a Jeep ZJ Cherokee, a Tundra on 37s. I don't know if you still own that or not.
It's gone.
Okay, and a 74 Blazer on sand tires.
But there was a Raptor somewhere there too, wasn't there?
I got first gen Raptor in there.
Yeah. So I've got a YJ project. It did run, so I'll have to probably work on it again. and it's got it does not really anything to brag about. It's got a 12-bolt rear and a 8.5 front, full-size axle underneath it. Small block Chevy with a tube cage and stuff. I've got a TJ that's bone stock, 60,000 mile, 4-cylinder, 5-speed project, but it's a good vehicle. I got a 79 Bronco that was my second trail rig on 39 Thornbirds with 4-inch suspension, 3-inch. Yeah.
That's
And
probably
the
the
Ford-
best Bronco hands down that there is. The strongest, the toughest, the best looking. Oh, my favorite year.
I have abused that thing for years. And
What year is it?
Tough. 79.
Yeah,
And I've washed it one time, and it's there's my general. And this old Bronco has sat out its entire life, and it's kind of my baby. It's it's a little ugly. It's primer black.
Okay.
It's surprising how much those have gone up in value. I bought one when I was younger for $1,200, and then did unspeakable things with it, and then sold it for like $600. And you couldn't, in my area, I mean, you could get a rusted, horrible one that wasn't running for like $6,000 now. Like the price on those are just crazy out here.
Yeah, sometimes I think the decimal point's in the wrong place when I see them, honestly. The one, I've got a Boulevard Cruiser that's a lot of fun, and I have took it in the mud. I've got an 890 step-side GMC with 39 1850 ball haul, Mickey Thompson ball hauls, with a rowdy small block Chevy and long tube headers. It's just kind of like my Boulevard Cruiser, but I do take it out on the trail lightly a little bit. So, and that's kind of it.
That's for the running ones. You got a handful of non-runners.
Yeah. I have an XJ that's uncut with 36s on it. That's it. That's my GMC.
Oh yeah, look at that. That's a classic too. Those are some big tires, man. Yeah.
So
awesome.
All right. Did you have anything else you wanted to? Anything else you're working on or wanted to bring up?
No, that's pretty well it. So I appreciate you guys having me on here. It's been an honor, and I hope I haven't bored you too much with my passion for this industry.
We're right there with you.
Yeah, we're right there with you. Yeah.
So bored. Yeah.
All right, guys. Be sure to tune in next week. We have cemented tuning coming on for all your Toyota tuning needs.
Yeah, Aaron's not even gonna bother to show up because Nissan problems.
Oh, I'm gonna ask I gotta ask the question about why did Toyota need to be tuned? They just apparently don't have as much horsepower as Nissans. I guess we'll find out next week.
So that's the guy who changed his whole motor.
Yep. We want to thank everyone who listens to us every week, especially those of you guys watching online with us. Live on YouTube is where most of the comments happen if you want to join in, although we go out to 8 different places, as well as you can just listen to us regularly. We really do appreciate you guys. It's a lot of fun having you guys there. You ask questions we don't always think of. Make sure you're sharing us with your friends, helping us grow, and God bless America.
Don't forget to visit Patriot Patch and join the Patch of the Month Club. Check out our Gaia affiliate link for up to 40% off. Also, don't forget to head over to Warren Colby Valve and 4 Patriots to see all of their great products. We are a proud part of the Firearms Radio Network. Got a question or comment? Send it to us through our Linktree account or by searching for Off-Road Podcast. Also, you can listen to us live at overlandradio.com Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific. When off-road, please remember to have fun, tread lightly, and be safe and courteous. Thanks for listening.
All right, give us some stocks to invest in now that we're off air. Also, who killed Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah.